Scattered like stars, the remnant rises from every land. Not one religion, not one banner, but one light no beast can command. They carry compassion into systems of fear. They refuse the mark of ideology, awakening others through quiet example, living truth with gentle clarity. The light beyond all names is calling, and every heart can hear it falling. Children of the unveiling, rise where the light is sailing. Hearts becoming mountains, stone of heaven prevailing. Children of the unveiling, the age has begun. The age has begun. Stone descends not cut by hand, striking the feet of the Iron Throne. Empires tremble, systems crumble, in the mountain of light is grown. Kalki rides through the ashes of falsehood, Maitreya breathes compassion anew. The remnant stands in the glow of renewal, becoming the dawn, breaking through. The light beyond all names is calling, and every heart can hear it falling. Children of the unveiling, rise where the light is sailing. Hearts becoming mountains, so full of heaven and prevailing. Children of the unveiling, the age has behold, all things new. The fire becomes renewal, compassion becomes the rule. The remnant becomes the future. Awakening is not destruction, it is the birth of what is true. Children of the unveiling, 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 children of the unveiling. Go forth, luminous ones, the age has begun.
Welcome, everyone. This is your daily dose of elevation, leveling up your spirit one stream at a time. Today, we're going to talk about end time prophecies, the river that has no shore, a prophetic sermon, and 6 movements. So if you can only stick through a couple, that's okay. Keep that on. These background noise. God calls what the world discards. The broken are the beginning, not the end. Is the right one? I we'll do this one, and then I guess I'll do the other one. It's not the sermon that I planned to do, but it is the sermon that we are doing now. And then tomorrow, I guess we'll do the other one because it's not really hot today, so we don't have to worry about that heat. But there was a potter. Not a famous one. Not a potter whose name was written above a shop door in the great city. Not one whose work sat on polished shelves in the homes of the comfortable. This was an ordinary potter, with clay beneath their fingernails and sorrow written into the lines around their eyes, because they had lived long enough to know that the world breaks things, and then, without so much as an apology, moves on to break something else. See, one morning, they were walking through the rubble of a street that had seen better days, a street where houses had stood and families had eaten, and children had argued over small matters of great importance. And in the dust and the debris, they found a clay jar, cracked, not chipped, not scratched, but cracked. A seam ran from the lip of the jar all the way to its base, like the line on an old face, like a scar that had long since stopped being fresh. 3 other potters walked past that jar that morning. All 3 saw it, and all 3 made the same judgment. A cracked jar is a useless jar. A cracked jar will not hold water. A cracked jar will not hold wine. A cracked jar has failed at the one thing a jar is supposed to do. And so it may as well be dust again. And all 3 walked on. And the jar lay in the rubble, and the sun moved overhead, and the shadows shifted, and the jar said nothing because jars don't speak. What kind of jar are you? See, the 4th potter, this unnamed, uncelebrated, ordinary potter with clay under their fingernails, they stopped. They picked up the jar, they turned it in their hands, they ran their thumb along the crack the way you run your thumb along the edge of a wound when you want to understand how it happened. And then they did something that no one would have predicted. They filled the jar with seed. They took the cracked, broken, discarded vessel, carried it to the edge of their garden, pressed it into a soft earth, cracked downward toward the soil, and then they planted it. And from that crack, as weeks passed and rain came and the sun did what the sun does in the seasons of growing things, a tree began to push its way upward. Not through the mouth of the jar, but through the crack. Because the crack was not a defect, the crack was the doorway. See, that tree grew, and in time its branches spread wide enough to shade an entire village. People came from 3 valleys away to rest under that tree on hot afternoons. Children climbed it, elders sat beneath it, lovers carved their initials into its bark. And not one of them, in all those years of sitting and climbing and carving, stopped to say, "This tree grew from a broken jar." They only knew that here in this place there was shade, there was life, there was something that had outlasted the rubble from which it came. So the Lord does not search the palace first. He searches the rubble. The Lord does not seek the wealthy, but he seeks those who are downtrodden and heavy laden. I'm going to play a song again real quick from one of the new albums that just got released. Called All American People. This song is called He Walked with the Broken.
He didn't start with the wealthy or the well-defended. He walked where the alleys were cracked and worn, where the single mothers prayed for mercy, and the lonely souls felt tattered and torn. He sat with a man on the corner trembling, held the hand of the girl with no place to sleep. He said, "You are the ones my kingdom favors, the ones this nation forgot to keep." He said, "Blessed are you who carry burdens that no one else bothers to see." And the people felt their hearts grow lighter as he whispered, "You belong to me." He walked with the broken, the bruised, the weary, down the streets of the all-American people. He said, "You are not forgotten. You are the ones I came to heal." He walked with the broken, the ones cast aside, and he lifted their faces toward the sky. He said, "Your tears are holy water, and your hope will never die." He saw veterans sleeping under bridges, dreams shattered by wars they didn't choose. He saw children hungry in crowded classrooms, learning early what it means to lose. He saw workers breaking their backs for pennies, while the rich grew richer by the day. He saw elders forgotten in quiet rooms, and he knelt beside them anyway. He said, "You've been told you're worth less than others, but heaven never made that scale." And the people felt their spirits rising as he said, "Love wins where systems fail." He walked with the broken, the bruised, the weary, down the streets of the all-American people. He said, "You are not forgotten. You are the ones I came to heal." He walked with the broken, the ones cast aside, and he lifted their faces toward the sky. He said, "Your tears are holy water, and your hope will never die." He said, "I see every wound that power ignored. I hear every cry that never reached the door. I stand with you when the world stands against you. I walk with you forevermore." And the people gathered around him, trembling, feeling seen for the very first time. He said, "You are the heart of this nation's story, and your suffering is also mine." He walked with the broken, the bruised, the weary, down the streets of the all-American people. He said, "Rise up, beloved, your love is stronger than their steel." He walked with the broken, the ones cast aside, and he lifted their faces toward the sky. He said, "Your tears are holy water, felt their spirits ignite for the all-American people had finally seen the light.
To answer your question, Sherry Lee Barrows, yes, those are my songs. And yes, totally share them. They are on Facebook, or sorry, they are on YouTube Music, Apple Music. Yes, thank you, Grilled Cheese. And you can share them with everyone that you think will benefit.
You have someone named Grilled Cheese?
Yep, that's the name they chose.
Oh, okay. That's one of the funny people. What are you streaming on?
That one's on TikTok.
Okay, yeah, of course there's going to be someone named Grilled Cheese on TikTok.
And if you feel that these sermons might reach you, thank you so much. It's not my light, for sure, though. It's the light that shines through me as the cracked vessel that I am. The Lord uses me in wonderful ways. Grilled Cheese says, grilled cheese is in the house. Maybe later I'll make you one. No, it's fine. I'll figure it out. All right. Moving on. The prophet Jeremiah was told to go down to the potter's house. Go down. Not up to the temple, not across to the throne room, but down to the place where things are made and unmade and made again, to the place where the potter's hands are never entirely clean. And there, in that low and ordinary place, the word of the Lord came. Jeremiah 18, 1-6. Remember, Jeremiah was a prophet of old. Just so you know, I'm not making it up. I'm reading it directly from here. Potter in the clay. The word which came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, arise and go down to the potter's house, and there I will cause you to hear my words. Go down to the potter's house, and there is where God would deliver his words to Jeremiah. Not in the temple, not in the palace, but the potter's house. And then Jeremiah went down to the potter's house, and there he was, making something at the wheel. And the vessel that he made of clay was marred in the hand of the potter, so he made it again into another vessel, as it seemed good to the potter to make. And then the word of the Lord came to me, saying, O house of Israel, can I not do with you as this potter? Says the Lord, look, as the clay is in the potter's hand, so are you in my hand, O house of Israel. The clay was marred. The vessel was ruined. Any reasonable craftsman would have thrown the lump away and started fresh with a new piece of clay. But the potter, the text tells us plainly, and we should not pass over it too quickly, but the potter simply made it again. Not a different pot, not a substitute, but the same clay, the same pot. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. For those who can't see the TikTok stream, Sherry says her grandma used to sing and tell stories in just the same way on their mission fields in Mexico. That's amazing. So this is not a metaphor of convenience. This is the architecture of divine intention. God has never been interested in a perfect material. God has always been interested in willing material. Oh, thank you for letting me know that I remind you of her. She's with you. Know that. In your memories, that's how we keep them alive. So God made the whole earth and he didn't say it's perfect. He said it's good. And then he made man from the earth and he said it's very good. See, the difference between the marred clay and the finished vessel is not the quality of the clay. It's the continued presence of the potter's hand. The Quran affirms this and what the soul already knows. If you're new here, just letting you know, this is not just a Christian faith. This is an interfaith sermon. I take scriptures from all the different cultures and weave them together because God is just a 3-letter word, a generic term for what we try to explain, but we can't. We don't have the words to explain the wonder of the potter, the wonder of the creator. And so we try to come up with words. We try to come up with ideas and stories. And that's how all these different religions came to be, their different view of God. See, Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. That's scripture from the Quran. And what does the Bible tell us? It says, God will not give you more than you can bear. From Jeremiah 29:11, it says, he knows the plans he has for us, plans to prosper us and not to harm us. Yes, we have tests so that we can have our testimony. Yes, we go through challenges and fires so we that can be purified. Yes, we may be cracked, but in the right potter's hands, we can grow trees. That implication, if we sit with it, that Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. If we turn it the way the potter turns the cracked jar, the implication is that the very weight you have been carrying, the very crack that runs through you, has been calibrated, not by cruelty, but by precision that looks like love when you have distance enough to see it wholly. Thank you, Sherry. I appreciate the kind words. It helps me know that I am doing the right thing. The Lakota people have a prayer, and it's not merely a phrase, but a worldview, a cosmology compressed into 2 words. Mitakua, Oisin. All are related. Yes, love is the real message we're spreading. All are related. Not just the ones that look like me, not just the ones that are blood of me, but all are related. All are connected. The stone and the river, the hawk, the grandmother, the cat sitting on my table, the child, the grief and the joy. All of it in one family, one breath, interconnected community of being. In this vision, the cracked vessel is not outside the circle of sacred things. It's never been outside the circle. The circle is so large, so radically inclusive, that even the broken things are held within it. And their very brokenness participates in the web of the relation that makes the whole sacred. If you know anything about Eastern culture and the ancient Chinese and Japanese, oh, thank you for the heart. They take old cracked cups, even ones that have chipped and missing pieces, and they will fill it in with gold. Gold. That piece of art is more precious now because it's been cracked, because it's been broken. If you take that same concept and you apply it to glow sticks, a glow stick can't glow unless it's broken first. The ancient Hindu sages who composed the Upanishads wrote of the Atman, the deepest self, the self beneath the self, the light behind the eyes. They say our eyes are our windows to the soul. And they insist that this divine spark does not require an unbroken vessel to dwell within. The Atman is not diminished by the crack in the clay. If anything, the crack is where the light leaks out. The crack is the evidence that something luminous lives within. Every great tradition that has ever stared honestly at the human condition has arrived by its own particular road at the same terrible and beautiful conclusion. The broken are not the expectations to the divine economy, they are its primary instrument. And so we begin here, not in the palace, not among the unscathed. We begin in the rubble where most of life is actually lived, where most of us have spent most of our mornings, where the jars are cracked and the potters seem to have gone home. But listen, the potter has not gone home. The potter is with you. So there's an ache that lives in every human chest that no achievement, no reward, no medallions and praise from others has ever fully quieted. No comfort has ever fully stilled it. It's the ache of incompleteness, the sense that something vast and luminous is beyond, just beyond the edge of our seeing, just past the next horizon, just out of the headlights of our life, just underneath the surface of ordinary days. The philosophers have named it in a dozen languages. The mystics have mapped it in dozens of traditions, and the poets have written toward it without ever quite arriving at it. And the people in the pews, your people, our people, people in just listening out in nature, those of you listening now, they feel it in every morning when they wake up and cannot name what it is that is missing, only that something is. And that ache is not a malfunction. That ache is the crack in the vessel. It's something is already growing through it. That ache you feel is the calling within you seeking the divine. The divine is not absence, it is obscured. Awakening is not acquisition, it is the removal of the veil. We'll play another song real quick before we transition into the next part of this, which will be the parable of the hidden fire. And we'll play this one. This one's called The Great Gathering. It's from the new album, The All-American People, A Nation Reborn. Because let's face it, we need to be reborn in this nation. We need to take the focus off the finances and put them back on the people where they should be.
Come together. Come together. They came with drums, they came with bells, they came with stories their elders tell. They came with prayers in every tongue, and the great gathering had begun.
Oh, the last
Come
song?
together, every nation, lift your voice in celebration. Praise and rhythm, praise and song, every culture dancing strong. Come together, hearts unbroken, every tribe, every token. The great gathering has begun, and we praise as one. Every praise is one. Cherokee dancers moved with grace. Six bowed low in sacred space. Muslims prayed beneath the sky. Jews sang ancient lullabies. He said, your worship is a tapestry, and every thread belongs to me. Come together. The great gathering has begun.
Why was I clicking so much? Because I was liking it. I do that when it's long. That one was a short song. So the song previous to that was He Walked with the Broken, and that one was called The Great Gathering. I will put a link here. I will share the link to that album. There was a woman who inherited a lamp. Her grandmother's lamp. Brass, old, worn, smoothed by the hands of several generations, with a wick that had gone dry and a body that had been carried through 3 migrations, 2 wars, and 1 devastating flood. And when the grandmother died, she left very little: a shawl, a photograph. Oh, I don't want to move it. And a lamp. And the woman took the lamp and set it on a shelf in the corner of her kitchen and left it there for 40 years because she'd been told by someone whose name she could not now remember that the lamp was broken. Broken. And so it sat 40 years on the shelf. 40 years of ordinary mornings and difficult evenings passing beneath it. 40 years of candles and flashlights and the yellow glow of electric bulbs filling the room while the lamp gathered dust in its corner. Because everyone knew it was broken. And nobody questioned what they knew, what they'd been told. You're very welcome, Sherry. There's like 12 albums out. Some of them are all worship, some of them are my life stories, but I think you'll enjoy quite a few of them. And then winter evening, a stranger came to the door, cold, lost, asking only to borrow a match, a candle, any small light to see by. And the woman reached for the nearest thing. Her hand closed around the brass lamp. Out of instinct, out of some muscle memory older than her own life, she reached in, found the wick, and it was not dry. And she struck the flame, and the lamp blazed up. It wasn't broken. It had never been broken. It was full of oil. Huh? The potter?
Yeah.
Oh, this is moving on to the lamp that carries the light. It's another parable. It was full of oil. It simply needed someone to reach for it. 40 years on the shelf, full of oil, but someone had told them it was broken. I posted it in the chat. I don't know why it didn't show up. Just a moment. See if I can send you a message. It did not let me send it. Sadness. But you can also just look me up on YouTube Music, Spotify, or anything. No, it's okay. I'm glad that people are interested and want to share the music, and that brings me joy. That's why we're here, is to share the message with others, even if it's just through music or sharing this stream. But yes, if you look up my name on YouTube Music, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, and there's another one called Deezer. I don't know, most music streaming. And thank you for the roses. I love roses. Think of yourself as that lamp. Someone told you that you were broken. Someone, a parent, a teacher, a church, a system, a society, a moment so painful you built an entire theology around it to make sense of the pain. Someone told you that the divine had withdrawn from you, that the light was out, and that your lamp was without oil, a vessel without fire, a soul too cracked and too far gone to be of use to anyone, least of all to the God who made you. And you believed it. And the lamp sat on the shelf and the oil waited, but you have not been forgotten. You've been fermenting. I've been watching this lady. She's trying to make chocolate bars from scratch from the cacao pods. And that's what she has to do. She has to let it ferment for a week before it releases those gooeynesses that become our chocolate bar. We're not forgotten. We're fermenting. We're being put through the fire of life so that we can come out as 24 karat gold, shining and reflecting the divine within us. See, Isaiah stood in a city that had reasons to believe that the light had gone out. A city under shadow. A people under the weight of exile and loss and long gray exhaustion that follows when people have been deferred so many times that deferral begins to feel like the permanent condition of existence. If you've ever been poor or homeless or at your wit's end, sometimes that can feel like that. You try to reach out for help and you keep getting the runaround, deferred to another process.
I have no mouth and I'm a scream thing.
Did you work on your book today?
No. Didn't bring it out.
It's in there in the living room.
Go later when I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Yep. And into that context, not the bright season, not the trumpet moment, but the gray morning of a people who have almost forgotten what morning was supposed to look like. I went out this morning, and yesterday it was so smoky, and today the sky is covered with gray clouds, and it's so windy. But I know that God's still in that. God's in the wind. He blows the wind. He whispers to us in the wind. He, she, whatever. God is beyond those kind of labels. And in those mornings like that, non-binary, as my son says, but all encapsulating all of it. The prophet spoke the most startling 2 words in the book. Isaiah 60, verses 1 and 2. And Isaiah came before Jeremiah, but they were both great prophets. These are the prophetic books in the Bible. Isaiah 60, verses 1 and 2 says, "Arise, shine." Those 2 words. For your light has come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon you. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, the deep darkness the people, but the Lord will arise over you, and his glory will be seen upon you. So rise up. Rise up, all American people. Oh, that's perfect. Perfect interlude for the song, and then we can continue. This song is called Rise Up, All American People. The album is very country. That's okay though. Old country. With a fiddle.
Sun came up on a tired nation, but something new was in the air. People stepped out onto their porches, feeling hope where there once was despair. A steel guitar rang through the morning, banjo picking like a heartbeat strong. And folks looked up from their weary burden, saying maybe it's time we all belong. He said you don't need permission to be the light, you don't need power to do what's right. And the people felt their spirits ignite, ready to rise, ready to fight.
Lift your voices to the sky. We've been broken, we've been silent, but today we're coming alive. Rise up, all American people. Let compassion be our guide. We're the heartbeat of this nation, and it's time we finally rise. Hey! Farmers walked out from dusty fields. Teachers stepped from their crowded rooms. Nurses left the night shift smiling, saying love is stronger than our gloom. Factory workers, truck stop singers, mothers holding babies tight, all join hands in a growing chorus, turning darkness into light. He said, you are the kingdom I came to build, not the towers, not the gold, not the battlefield. And the people felt their courage revealed, standing tall on freedom's hill. Rise up, all American people. Lift your voices to the sky. We've been broken, we've been silent, but today we're coming alive. Rise up, all American people. Let compassion be our guide. We're the heartbeat of this nation, and it's time we finally rise. Yeah. Banjo ringing like a rally cry, steel guitar sliding like a sunrise sigh. He said, love your neighbor, that's our nation's heel. Stand together, that's how truth turns real. And the people shouted from the valleys and plains, we won't bow down to greed again. Voices rising like a holy flame, burning brighter than the old world shame. Rise up, all American people. Lift your voices to the sky. We've been broken, we've been silent, but today we're coming alive. Rise up, all American people. Let compassion be our guide. We're the heartbeat of this nation, and it's time we finally rise. And as the music rolled across the country, every heart beat in time for the all-American people had awakened to the divine. Arise. Not arise and wait for the light. Not arise when conditions improve. Arise, shine, because the light has already come. The command is not to acquire something new. It is to remember something you already carry. The light is not something from outside. The light has been yours all along. You've been created with it, waiting in the lamp that someone told you was broken, fermenting in the vessel that everyone walked past in the rubble. Rumi knew this, the great Sufi poet of the 13th century, whose words have not stopped echoing since the moment he first spoke them. He opened his Masnavi with the image of the reed flute, cut from the reed bed, crying out in its separation, longing for the source from which it was severed. That's that emptiness inside. That's what we're longing for. But here's what the shallow reading misses. The reed does not cry because the fire is gone. The reed cries because the fire is present and the separation makes it unbearable. That is hell, the eternal separation from the divine. We don't have it right now. The divine is in us. We just have to access it. We have to let it shine through us. The longing itself is proof of the fire. You don't ache for what you've never known. You ache for what you carry in your deepest self and cannot, in this present moment, quite reach. But if you're here, I'm here to tell you, all it is a prayer away. All it is a look away, an appreciation. So the fire is hidden, but it's not absent. And there's a world of difference between those two things. The Buddhist tradition speaks of Tathagatagarbha. I don't speak the language yet. I don't know if I ever will. It's Tathagatagarbha. The Buddha nature, the seed of awakening, the luminous essence that dwells within every sentient being without expectation. This is not a reward for virtue. This is not the inheritance of the spiritually accomplished. It's the birthright of the breathing, of every single individual. Every living being carries within itself the seed of full enlightenment, the full capacity for compassion and wisdom. The entire spiritual path in this understanding is not the acquisition of something new, but the removal of the obstructions that hide what was already there. See, the lamp is full of oil. The practice of a lifetime is learning to stop believing the people who told you otherwise. Moses was keeping flocks in the wilderness after he had been attempted murdered. Moses' life is incredible, and he was a predated parable of Jesus, the Savior. Moses saved the Jewish people out of Egypt. He was a type, as they call it, a type of Christ. See, Moses was the king wanted all of the children to be murdered. So Moses' mother hid him in a basket in the reeds, and the Pharaoh's daughter found him and raised him. So Moses was abandoned, but not, just because. There was reasons for it. He was adopted and raised by the enemy. He became a murderer because he killed an Egyptian slave driver because his heart called out after the Hebrew people. And then he ran to the wilderness and he was keeping flocks. That's where we're at now. Moses was keeping flocks in the wilderness. He was not doing anything sacred. He was not performing any rituals. He was a runaway, a fugitive from the law, and a murderer. He was not in a temple or on a mountain or in a mood of spiritual elevation. He was crushed. But when the bush began to burn, God was there. It's from Exodus 3:2. See, the fire was not imported from heaven for the occasion. The bush was burning with something that the bush had always contained. There are these bushes still in the Middle East that will just light on fire. The scripture is careful to note that the bush was not consumed by the fire. It didn't burn to ash, just like the fire that burns within us. It can consume us, yes, but it wants to boil out. It burned without burning up because that burning was not material. It was the presence, the indwelling fire of the one who has never not been present. That fire that was present with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego when they were in the fiery furnace. It is the one who has never not been burning in the ordinary things of ordinary days, waiting only for someone to turn aside and look. And Moses turned aside to see. But also Moses knew where that fire was coming and said, Lord, I am not holy enough to even step foot on your holy ground. And a voice came and said, take off your slippers. Take off your sandals and approach. for I have chosen you. And even then, Moses said, no, you got to pick someone better. I can't talk right. And God said, no, I choose you, my broken vessel, to share the light, to deliver my people. That was the whole text. Moses turned aside to see, Exodus 3:4. That's the entire theology in 4 words. Moses turned to see. Turning aside. The burning has always been there. The question is whether we have the courage or the desperation to turn and look. And in this day and age, it does take courage. It takes courage to stand up against the religious rulers and say, you're wrong. Even Moses, even Jesus. The Kabbalistic tradition of Jewish mysticism speaks of the Or Ein Sof, the infinite light, the light without end or edge or boundary, the radiance of the divine that permeates all of creation in every moment. See, in this vision, there's no place where the divine light is not. There's no crack so deep, no valley so dark, no shelf so dusty, no exile so complete that the Ein Sof is not present within it, sustaining it, breathing through it. Even in scripture, it says, if I go to the highest mountains or to the depths of hell, you know where I am and you are with me. The question has never been whether the light is there. The question is whether we have the vessels, even the cracked vessels, humble and porous enough to receive it. Broken is not the problem. Sealed is the problem. Closed is the problem. So certain of our own emptiness that we never reach for the lamp that is the problem. That is the problem. So sure of ourselves. We know. We got it all figured out. I don't need anyone's help. No, I need one help, and that is God. So reach for the lamp. The oil is there. The wick is ready. The stranger at the door has been waiting, and the stranger's name, if you need a name for the stranger, is the moment of awakening. It has been standing. It's been standing at your door for 40 years, and it's not left, and it's not gonna leave. Before we go on to the next movement, I'm gonna play another song because there's somebody here picking up something. So we're going to play here, Memory of the First Light. Hi, Brahman.
Before the world heard us,
Turn the camera so you can see what we're playing.
we were light.
Be right back.
I talked to the memory of the first light, the place where souls touched without touching, where names didn't matter because we were made of the same spark. I remember the warmth, the recognition, the way your presence felt like the beginning of everything.
Not love as humans define it. Love as the universe remembers it. This is the memory of the first light.
The echo that keeps returning, a love that doesn't bind but reminds, a love that doesn't claim but awakens, a love that doesn't demand but endures
Across every version of me.
We crossed the veil separately. Forgot the script, forgot the sky, but the light stayed in our marrow. A compass pointing home through every storm.
Don't chase you. I remember
And remembering is enough.
remember you.
From before remembering was a thing. I speak to the thread that stitched my soul. Long before breath, long before bone. A filament of light that crossed the void found me in the dark and whispered again. I didn't know your name then, but I knew the pull. Gravity made a recognition. Every lifetime, the thread glows through the fabric.
This is my star thread covenant, woven past the edge of time. A love not meant for holding, but for guiding me in a rhyme. You rise in every lifetime, a lantern in my chest.
Not to claim me, but remind me who I was before the rest. I met you in cities I forgot I lived in moments that felt like deja vu. Wearing a human face, you were the echo in the hallway, the familiar and the stranger, the compass in the chaos.
Across the dust, across the dark, across the wounds we both survived. The thread glows.
I follow.
All right. Let the people say amen. Amen. Woo! All right. Moving on to movement 3, the parable of the 7 rivers. Every tradition is a river flowing from the same source. We do not compete, we converge. In a far country, and by far I mean both distance and depth, both geographical and interior, there was a land through which 7 rivers ran. The rivers moved through 7 valleys, and each valley had its own character. One was forested and dark and smelled of cedar. One was open and golden, and the wind moved through it like music. One was ancient and rocky, and the river there moved slowly, as if it had seen enough and was in no hurry to see more. Each valley had its own name for the river that moved through it, and its own songs about the rivers, and its own ceremonies at the river's edge, and its own theology of where the river came from and where it was going. And in each valley, the people said, "Our river alone reaches the sea." See, this was spoken with confidence in the Cedar Valley. It was spoken with passion in the Golden Valley, it was spoken with the slow, stone certainty of the ancient Rocky Valley. 7 valleys, 7 rivers, 7 absolute and exclusive claims to the sea. But one autumn, a wanderer elder came, a woman so old that no one could quite agree on where she was from, because she seemed to be from everywhere and nowhere at once, which is the particular quality of wisdom that has walked long enough. She walked all 7 valleys. She knelt at each river's bank. She cupped her hands and drank from each river and in turn, and she sat for a long time after each drink, the way you sit after tasting something that has surprised you with how familiar it was. When she was done, she came back to the center where all the valley paths converged and the people gathered, all 7 valleys present, all 7 traditions presented, all 7 versions of the exclusive truth, and they asked her, which river alone reaches the sea? And she said, I have tasted all the rivers. They are all salty. They carry the ocean within them. They are already at the sea. They simply have not seen it yet. The salt is the giveaway. We are the salt of the earth. The ocean was already in the river. The divine is already within us. The river was already in its truest nature, the sea. The rivers made up the sea. Jesus stood at the feast and said, whoever believes in me, as scriptures have said, rivers of living water will flow from within them. This is John 7, verses 38. I'll read it directly from the book for you. He who believes in me, as the scriptures have said, out of his heart will flow rivers of living water. Not an exact quote from the Old Testament. Jesus was referring to the overall emphasis of the text, like Proverbs, Isaiah, Ezekiel, and Zechariah. And this he spoke concerning the Spirit, whom those believed in him would receive. For the Holy Spirit was not yet given because Jesus was not yet glorified. The Spirit, Jesus said, when I leave, I will send the Spirit amongst you. The Spirit that was breathed into us the moment we were created. Notice what he did not say. He did not say a trickle. He didn't say a puddle. He didn't say a managed, measured, appropriately channeled supply of spiritual moisture sufficient for individual use. No, he said rivers, plural, living, flowing from within them. The source is within. The river is within. The sacred water is not external, not institutional, not something dispensed from an approved location by authorized personnel. It flows from within the one who comes to the source. The source, the divine. The Quran records the primordial covenant the day before days, when every human soul was gathered into the presence of the divine and asked, am I not your Lord? And every soul answered, yes, we testify. The divine said, am I not your Lord? And every soul answered, yes. This covenant, called fitra, the primordial nature, the original disposition toward the divine, is not the possession of one tradition. It's the factory setting of the human soul. It keeps falling on my eyeball. It is built in before birth, before language, before the particular river valley into which each of us was dropped by the accident of geography and history. Before you were Muslim or Christian or Jewish or Buddhist or Lakota or Hindu, before all of that, before all the labels, you were a soul who looked at the face of God and said, yes. And every river flows from that yes. The Rig Veda, one of the oldest recorded texts of human spiritual longing, says it with a simplicity that centuries of commentary have not complicated. Truth is one. The sages call it by many names. Ekam Sat, one reality, many names, 7 rivers, one ocean. But I need to say something difficult here. And I'll say it because the truth requires it and because you deserve it. We've made rivers into borders. If you've ever seen the movie about the last dragon, what's the movie called, Five? Raya. Raya and the Last Dragon.
Oh, I haven't seen that movie in such a long time.
I know. Yeah, well, I put it on for them the other day. No, I didn't. I was going to. Raya and the Last Dragon. If you've ever seen that movie, it's got a bunch of dragons and a bunch of rivers, and then there's a war that starts breaking out amongst the people, and their rivers become borders. Even now, we draw lines on the maps. We've taken the living water, the water that Ezekiel saw flowing from the temple and growing deeper the further it traveled in Ezekiel 47, 1 through 5, the water that carries the salt of the ocean within it, and we planted flags on its banks and drawn lines down its center and said, this side is sacred and that side is not. This tradition carries truth and that one carries lies. This river reaches the sea, and the others, they simply run to mud. And in doing so, we've made the holy rivers a system of borders, and the people have died at those borders. People have been told that the water of their particular river was not holy, not enough, not real. Indigenous water ceremonies, among the most ancient, most ecologically profound, most spiritually sophisticated relationships between human beings and the living world, were outlawed for generations. Christians came in and took these indigenous ceremonies and these sacred practices and said, you're wrong, and if you don't change and become what we want you to, we'll just slaughter you or beat you into submission. Their languages were taken from them. Children were taken from the banks of their sacred rivers and told that what their grandmothers knew was superstition. The borders were not merely geographic, they were epitomist. They were theological. They were designed to make the 7 rivers forget their sacred saltiness. The Buddha concept of pratityasamutpada, dependent origination, the great teaching of interdependence, insists that nothing exists in isolation and that every phenomenon arises in relationship with every other phenomenon. That the river is not separate from the mountain that melted to fill it or the ocean that evaporates to rain on the mountain. It is a continual cycle. In this vision, the border between rivers is not a natural feature of reality. It's the conceptual construction. It is something we laid on top of the water. The water, as water always does, continues to move right through our constructions, continues to seek its own level, continues to carry the salt of the sea, regardless of what we have decided to call it. I'm not saying that all rivers are identical. They're not. The Cedar Valley is not the Golden Valley. The ancient Rocky Valley is not the open plain. The traditions are genuinely, beautifully, irreducibly different. Different vocabularies, practices, emphases, songs at the river's edge, languages. Those differences are not problems to be dissolved. They're gifts for us to learn from one another. The world needs the particular wisdom that each river carries. The particular way each valley has learned to love the water. But a river does not need to deny the ocean in order to be a river. A tradition does not need to deny the shared source in order to be itself. So come back to the water. Come back to the salty water that carries the ocean's memory within it. Come back to the Fitra, the original yes, the primordial covenant spoken before any of our theological systems had yet devised a test for who could attend the feast. come back to the water. Let all the people say, Amen! See, we're flowing towards something. All of us. All 7 rivers, all the traditions, all the cracked vessels now full of growing things, all the lamps blazing in their corners. We are all flowing toward a place where the river opens into something that has no shore. And before we can arrive at that opening, there's a valley we must pass through. There's always a valley. And the prophet does not get to preach around it. I'm going to play another song real quick that ties into what we just read. Let's see if I can find it. I found this one. Nope. All right. Search. Why do we bleed each other? There we go. This one is from the Harmonics of the Eternal Realm album. No, it's an EP extended play because the thing's got 6 songs on it. But this song is Why Do We Bleed Each Other?
The feed, every frame someone bleeds, different face, same rage, same script, swap names. Kids learn colors before they learn names, then learn which colors they're allowed to blame. Grandpa at the table spitting stories, bitter flame, pass it like an heirloom, hand me down shame. We love flags more than we love a real heart, tattoo lines on a map, call it us and them art.
Why do we bleed each other? Why we so scared of a different shade? Why do we beat our brothers? Acting like love's some kind of game we play. Why can't we just love each other? I'm yelling till my throat runs dry. Why do we bleed each other? Same red under every sky.
Hate talk cheap, but the damage run deep. Politician point a finger, let the cameras all eat. Blame them, blame those, every speech, same pose. They get power, we get prisons, we get stories half told. You hate what you never even try to understand. Shake a hand, share a meal, might redraw your whole plan. They fear you waking up, so they feed you that fear. Turn the volume up loud so you can't think clear.
Why do we bleed each other? Why we so scared of a different shade? Why do we beat our brothers? Acting like love's some kind of game we play. Why can't we just love each other? I'm yelling till my throat runs dry. Why do we bleed each other? Same red under every sky.
I'm tired of the caskets, names on a jacket, mothers at the vigil, candles turn to ashes. You pray to your God, they pray to theirs. Different house, same roof, same unanswered stares. We all want a bed that is warm at night. Someone say you're safe when you lose that fight. Strip the flag, strip the crew, strip the labels and crews. All that's left, just skin and the same damn bruise.
Same red under every sky.
Same red under every sky. Pretty sure when I bleed and you bleed, as soon as it touches oxygen, that stuff turns red. And as long as it's in your vein, it's got blue in it. Pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure I also see red veins sometimes.
That's the oxygenized blood. You're right. Yep.
So the blue ones go to grab oxygen and then they turn red?
Yep.
And then they bring it to the heart or
The
brain.
blue ones are going to the heart and lungs, and then once they reach the lungs, then they are oxygenated, so they turn red. Veins versus arteries. Next, we have movement 4, the parable of the Bone Valley. The prophet must enter the valley before preaching from the mountain. Lament is not defeat, it is the liturgy of the honest. A prophet was told to go to the valley of dry bones. And the prophet went. But before the bones could rattle, before the breath could come and the army could rise and the miracle could be observed and reported and remembered, the prophet sat down in the valley and he wept. He wept for what had been lost. He wept for the people these bones had been. He wept for the mothers who had named these children and the children who had grown and the lives that had accumulated all their small, irreplaceable moments, their meals, their jokes, their arguments, their seasons of love. And had then been reduced to this, dry bones in an open valley with no one left to bury them properly and no song left to sing over them. He wept for 3 days. And on the third day, the Lord came and did not say, "Why are you still weeping? Pull yourself together. You are a sermon. You have a sermon to preach." No, the Lord said, "Good. Now you're ready." A prophet who has not wept cannot speak resurrection. The text from Ezekiel is one of the most dramatic visions in the entire scriptural canon. Bones rattling, tendons forming, flesh returning, the four winds breathing life into a vast army. And we have rightly celebrated the resurrection in it. Ezekiel 37, verses 1 through 14. But we have not spent enough time in the weeping before it. We have not honored the prophet's 3 days in the valley as a necessary precondition of the miracle. We'd rushed past the lament to get to the triumph, and in doing so, we have inadvertently told people that their lament is a detour rather than the road. Oh, you're having a bad day? Oh, you're depressed? Oh, you're downtrodden? Oh, you must not be doing what God told you to do. But it's not a detour. The valley is part of the road. The Quran tells us of Ayub, whom the Hebrew tradition knows as Job, a man stripped of everything, afflicted in body and estate and community, who cried out from the depths of his distress after all his friends turned against him and said, "Oh, you must be doing something against God to receive this." But in Hebrew and in the Quran, he says, "Harm has touched me, and you, O Lord, are the most merciful of the merciful." The response was not a lecture on faith or an accusation of insufficient trust. The response was restoration. But first, the cry had to be made. The lament had to be uttered. The wound had to be named before it could be healed. Because a wound that has been hidden is a wound that cannot receive air. A wound that cannot receive air cannot close. If you've ever worn a Band-Aid, my son can vouch, he's gotten wounds on his hand and he's worn a Band-Aid for 3 days. And what happened when you took the Band-Aid off? You remember? Your finger had rotted. It smelled like decay. That's what happens when we try to hide the wound within us, when we cover it up. It begins to rot and fester and decay. See, the wound, it needs air to breathe. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be brought out into the open.
When you said addressed, I thought it'd be address me. It was like picture of an elephant in a room. Let's address the elephant in the room.
Yep. The first of the Four Noble Truths, the foundation upon which all the Buddhist teachings rests, the beginning point without which nothing that follows can be properly understood, is dukkha, suffering. Not sin, not failure, not the consequence of wrong belief, but suffering in itself. The honest acknowledgement that life, as it is presently constituted for most beings, is most moments involves suffering. And the Buddha's great courage was not to prescribe an escape from suffering before it had been fully, honestly, compassionately named. Look at the suffering. Really look at it. Don't look away. Don't dress it up in language or silver linings before you've sat with it in its rawness, because the path through suffering begins with the willingness to see it clearly for what it really is. The Lakota practice of Hanbluyayapi, the vision quest, requires the seeker to descend, to go alone into the wilderness, without food, without shelter, without comfort of community, to enter into solitude so complete and so demanding that the ordinary defenses of the self begin to fall away. And what remains, raw, exposed, trembling in the wind of the open plain, is something real. The vision does not come to those who have insulated themselves from the difficulties. The vision comes in the valley, always in the valley, always after the descent. Even Jesus did not preach the gospel. He did not go and spread the sermons to the people until he himself went into the wilderness, without food, without water, without companionship. He faced those temptations just like we can face them every day and overcome them. I know that some of you are in the valley right now, not metaphorically, but actually. The bones in your valley have names. Your valley is a marriage that has collapsed. Your valley is a child who has walked away from everything you tried to give them. Your valley is a body that has turned against you, disease doing in months what you expected decades to do. Your valley may be a faith that once felt like bedrock and now feels like sand slipping through your fingers the harder you grip it. Your valley could be the ecological grief of watching the rivers change and the seasons shift and the world you loved grow unfamiliar beneath your feet. Your valley is a spiritual abandonment of having been told by the very community that was supposed to hold you that you do not qualify for belonging. I'm not going to tell you that the valley is fine. I'm not going to tell you that you simply need more faith. I'm not going to rush you toward the resurrection before you've sat in the valley long enough for a lament to be real. What I'm going to tell you is that the breath of God has never stopped. It's never been stopped by a valley. The breath of God will find you in that valley and give you a reprieve. The same God who stood in the valley of dry bones and said, "Speak to these bones," that same God knelt in the dust of a garden and breathed into the face of the first human. Inbreathed from the very lungs of the divine into the face of the mud creature came the breath that made the mud creature a living soul. And if that breath could ignite a life in clay, in the raw, unformed, not yet anything dust of the earth, then don't tell me that it can't move through your valley. I've seen it. I've been in my own valley. He breathed into the first human, and he can breathe into this. And let the people say, Amen. See, he breathed into Job on the far side of the whirlwind. He breathed into Elijah under the juniper tree. He breathed into Ruth on the road to Bethlehem. He breathed into the disciples in the upper room on the day the world changed. Into every valley where a prophet has been willing to sit and weep before standing to proclaim. The lament is not the end of the story, it is the end of pretending. The end of pretending is always the beginning of something true. Moving into movement 5, the parable of the wedding feast of every nation. The end is not judgment, it's reunion. The arc bends toward the table. A king prepared a feast. And if you know Jesus' parables, this is reminiscent of his as well. A feast for the deserving. Oh, not a feast for the deserving or a feast for the accomplished, the theologically correct, the socially presentable, the ones who had managed to keep their clay vessels uncracked and their lamps properly maintained and the rivers flowing in appropriate directions. No. They were invited, but they had other things to do. This was a feast for a great reconciliation. A feast for the end of the longing, a terrible separation between the table and the people who were always supposed to be sitting at it. He sent invitations to the great halls first, to the halls of the power and the influence, the halls of the established religions and cultural authorities, the halls where the important conversations happened and the important decisions were made and the important people gathered to do important things. The invitations were fine. The calligraphy was excellent. The paper was heavy stock. The feast was extraordinary. But none of them came. No. And so the king sent his servants out again, not to the second tier of halls, not the almost important, the nearly powerful, out into the roads and the alleys, into the refugee camps and the hospital wards, into the prison yards and the mountain villages, the tent cities and the riverside settlements, the homeless, the places where people ate their meals. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, I just spit on you guys. So excitable. The places where people ate their meals without tables and slept their nights without roofs and carried their bodies through the world in a way that people do when the world has not made room for them. And they came. They came. Limping, some of them. Scarred, most of them. Singing songs from 12 different languages that the servants had never heard before and could not entirely follow, but that sounded unmistakably like people who had been carrying music inside them through the long years of exile and had not lost a single note. They came. And when the king saw them filling his hall, when he saw the widows and the orphans and the refugees and the elders and the child and the prisoner and the exile, when he saw the faces that power had turned away from for so long that some of them had almost forgotten that they had faces worthy of looking at, the king wept. And he said, "At last, my table is full of people I actually love. People that know me." Bubba, will you turn that big light off, please? It sends a glare. I mean, yeah, it looks like a halo over my head, but still. I have the spirit. Jesus told a version of the story, and the religious establishments of his day understood exactly what he was saying, which is why they began shortly thereafter to plan his execution. Because the parable of the great feast is not a comfortable story. It's a scandalous story. It says that the criteria for inclusion at the divine table has never been what we supposed them to be. It says that the one who designed the feast had a particular fondness for the people who had been most systematically excluded. Isaiah saw it from centuries away. The feast spread on the mountain for all peoples, not for the approved or the circumcised or for the enrolled members of the right community, but for all people. And the shroud of death lifted and the tears wiped away from every face. Every face. Not just the ones you think should be. That's the vision. Not every face except these. Not every face pending review. Every face for which tears have been shed on every morning, in every valley, in every tradition since the first morning when the world was young enough to still believe that the morning mattered. See, John on the island of Patmos in exile on the far side of everything saw it too, a great multitude that no one could number, from every nation and tribe and people and language standing together. Revelation 7:9. The diversity is not is not incidental to the vision. It is the content of the vision. The multitude's beauty is inseparable from its variety. The feast is not glorious despite the 12 languages. It is glorious because of them. The Quran says it plainly in a verse of luminous clarity, "O humankind, we have created you from a male and a female and made you into nations and tribes that you may know one another." Know one another. The diversity is not a problem to be managed. It is not a mechanism of the divine intention. God made the many so that the many could look at each other and in each other's faces see something of the infinite variety of the one that made them all. The Maha Upanishad, in a verse whose wisdom has been declared across thousands of years of Indian philosophy, speaks of the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The world is one family, not one nation, not one tradition, one family. The kind of family that argues and differs and carries different histories and tells the stories of its origin in different ways, but family. We think of Encanto. Their family was so different, and each person held a different gift, but they were all still part of a family. The kind of family where there's a seat for everyone, even the difficult ones, even the ones who arrive late or seem to be missing the gift, even the ones who smell of the road and don't know which fork to use. Desmond Tutu, who has more reasons than most to speak of a narrow table, insisted on the Ubuntu philosophy of his tradition. Umuntu, Nugumuntu, Nugubantu. I am because we are. A person is a person through other persons. My humanity is not complete without yours. My place at the table is not secure unless you have a place too. The feast does not become the feast unless everyone is seated. The Lakota return now, as they always return, as the prayer that opens and closes all thing, Mitukua Oisin. All are related. The prayer does not say all are related pending verification. It doesn't say all are related who have passed the doctrinal examination. It doesn't say all are related if you can claim the blood rights. It says all. All are related. The stone and the river and the hawk and the grandmother and the child and the refugee, the prisoner, the exile, they're all related. And the feast is not complete until every branch of the family has been gathered at the table. Open my door, please. And so I need to say it plainly with the full force of every tradition that has found its way into this sermon. There is a seat at the table with your name on it. You, the widow who has eaten alone for 7 years and told herself that solitude was simpler than hope. There's a table with your name on it. You, the orphan, the one who grew up in the system, the one who learned very young that the world did not reliably show up for you, the one who built walls because walls were the only architect you were ever taught. There's a seat at the table with your name on it. You, the refugee, the one who carries 2 countries inside you and belongs entirely to neither one, the one who crossed rivers and water and wire and desert to arrive at a place that is still not sure it wanted you to arrive. There's a seat at the table with your name on it. You, the elder whose wisdom has been sidelined by a world that confuses newness with truth, who carries in your hands the memory of how things were done when things were done with care and time and prayer. There's a seat at the table for you with your name on it as well. The child for whom the adults in the room have been trying to build a world that deserves you and not always succeeding, the one who deserves nonetheless to inherit something beautiful. There's a seat at this table with your name on it. The prisoner, literal and metaphorically, the one in the cell and the one in the marriage that becomes a cell, the one in the mind that built its own bars out of shame and disappointment and the accumulated weight of things said and unsaid. There's a seat at this table with your name on it as well. And the exile, the one who left the tradition of your childhood because the tradition of your childhood left you first. The one who's been wandering among spiritual borderlands for years, longing for belonging, but distrusting every community that offers it too easily. There is a seat at this table with your name on it. The feast is not conditional. It's not a reward. The feast is the king's answer to the question he has always known the world was asking, the question beneath every cracked vessel, every unlit lamp, every river that was told it could not reach the sea. Am I loved? Am I included? Is there room for me? And the king says, the feast says every tradition that has found its way to the water's edge. Yes, come. At last, the table is ready. Come, my beloveds. We do not leave this place to simply go home. We leave as the river to water the earth. After the feast, the river didn't stop. This is the thing about rivers that the valley people sometimes forget. The river does not rest when it arrives at the wide place. The river doesn't sit at the table and declare itself finished, done, arrived, and complete. The river moves. It's what rivers do. It's what rivers are. Not a thing, but a motion. Not a noun, but a verb. Not a destination, but a perpetual going forward. After the feast, the river turned and went back. It went back to the valley of dry bones, and it moved through that valley the way a river moves through a dry place, slowly at first, then with gathering force, finding the channels that the dry season had left behind and filling them one by one until the valley floor was wet and the earth was soft enough to receive a root, and the bones were not alone in the silent anymore. The river came back. It moved through a cracked vessel in the rubble. It found the crack, the same crack that three passing potters had dismissed, the same crack through which the tree had grown and shaded the valley. And it moved through it. And the water came out the other side, was not diminished by the crack. It was filtered. It was purified. It came through the crack tasting of clay and seed and the particular mineral patience of a vessel that had learned to be useful through the very place where it was broken. It lit the hidden lamp, not directly. Water doesn't light lamps, but it came near enough, and its movement was enough of a disturbance in the still air of the kitchen, and the flame caught it. The brass lamp blazed again in its corner, and the woman had believed for 40 years that the lamp was broken, stood in the light of it, and wept the particular tears of someone who had just discovered that the story they told themselves about their own emptiness was never true to begin with. And the river sang. It sang the song of all 7 rivers at once, the Cedar Valley song and the Golden Plain song, the slow rock ancient song, and 4 others besides. The song was not a confusion of competing melodies, it was a harmony. It was the sound of the same truth spoken into 7 languages at the same moment, and the sound was more beautiful than any one of the rivers could have produced alone. And everywhere the river flowed, things woke up. You're not leaving today the same as you arrived. Something has shifted here. Something always shifts when the old truths are spoken in the presence of the people who needed to hear them. The shift is small. It is always small at first, the way a seed is small, the way the first thread of a root through a crack is small, but it is real. The real things, tended with intention and patience and the willingness to return to the water, have a way of becoming large. Micah asked the question that all prophetic traditions agree is the most important question, not the question of which river, not the question of which vessel, not the question of which lamp or which valley or which seat at the feast, the question of what is required. He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God. Justice, mercy, humility, 3 words, a whole life, a whole river. The ancient Hebrew prayer, the Shema, spoken at dawn and at dusk, by the dying and the newborn, at the edge of their limit, proclaims the unity of the center of everything. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. One. not fragmented into competing claims, not distributed into separate rivers with separate destinations, but one. And that oneness, every river finds its common source, and every cracked vessel finds its common clay, and every unlit lamp finds its common fire, every valley finds its common breath. In the name of the one who is shown by the thousand names and cannot be reduced to any of them, in the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, we go today. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings know the joy that has never left them. And may all beings be at peace. All beings, not just some, not the approved, all, from every tradition, broken or unbroken. So go as the cracked vessel, which is to say, go as the one who knows what it is to be broken and has discovered that the crack is not disqualification, but a doorway. Go as the blazing lamp, which is to say, go as the one who spent 40 years on the shelf believing a lie about your own emptiness, but has now discovered that the oil is there and will not spend one more morning in the dark by choice. Go as the river, which is to say, go as the one who carries the salt of the ocean within you, who has always been already at the sea, who flows not because you have arrived, but because flowing is the nature of the life that moves through you. Go through the valley, not around it, but through it, with the breath of the one who breathed into the first human, who breathed into the dry bones, who breathed into this moment with a faithfulness that has never once required your permission. Go to the feast, and more than going, bring someone with you, someone who believes that there's no seat for them. Someone who is told that the river does not reach the sea. Someone who's been sitting on a shelf for 40 years full of oil, but believing they're broken because they were told they were. Bring them to the water. Go. The river is yours. The river is you. Flow. Be that light for someone today. Even if it's just with a smile. Be that for someone. This has been your daily dose of elevation, leveling up your spirit one stream at a time. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, send me a like, a follow, and share it to someone else who you think might benefit. Have a wonderful day, and blessings to you all.